Part 2 of reading of Bartleby by Hermann Melville, because it's a very long story and got cut off. We've got about 10 pages in, so probably this video, no, not 10 pages, 5. We'll go for approximately 15 minutes to half an hour, I'm not quite sure. But we need to finish the story, people of Earth, because the Tanya Mamati psychedelic trema must complete her mission. So we'll start again from the paragraph where we got cut off, just for the sake of congruency and cohesion. By the way, it's 1:35 p.m. on the 6th of December 2024. Coming to you from sacred space at Titania's realm. Right, we continue on. I believe that this wise and blessed frame of mind would have continued with me. He'd just decided that he was going to let him stay living in his office and not working till Bartleby himself decided to move himself on. So basically forever. Had it not been for the unsolicited and uncharitable remarks obtruded upon me by my professional friends who visited the rooms. But thus it often is, that the constant friction of liberal minds wears out at last the best resolves of the more generous, though to be sure, when I reflected upon us, it was not strange that people entering my office should be struck by the peculiar aspect of the unaccountable Bartleby, and so be tempted to throw out some sinister observation concerning him. Sometimes an attorney, having business with me, and calling at my office, and finding no one but the scrivener there, would undertake to obtain some sort of precise information from him touching my whereabouts, but without heeding his idle talk, Bartleby would remain standing immovable in the middle of the room. So after contemplating him in that position for a time, the attorney would depart no wiser than he came. It really is kind of an epileptic kind of fit where he just stands silently, not even engaging. It's odd. Anyway. Also, when a reference was going on, and the room full of lawyers and witnesses and business driving fast, some deeply occupied legal gentleman present, seeing Bartleby wholly unemployed, would request him to run round to the legal gentleman's office, and fetch some papers for him. Thereupon Bartleby would tranquilly decline, and yet remain idle as before. Then the lawyer would give a great stare and turn to me, and what could I say? At last I was made aware that all through the circle of my professional acquaintance, a whisper of wonder was running round, having reference to the strange creature I kept at my office. This worried me very much, and as the idea came upon me of his possibly turning out a long-livered man, and keep occupying my chambers, and denying my authority, and perplexing my visitors, and scandalizing my professional reputation, and casting a general gloom over the premises, keeping soul and body together to the last upon his savings, for doubtless he spent but half a dime a day, and in the end perhaps outlive me, and claim possession of my office by right of his perpetual occupancy. As all these dark anticipations crowded upon me more and more, and my friends continually intruded their relentless remarks upon the apparition in my room, a great change was wrought in me. I resolved to gather all my faculties together and forever rid me of this intolerable incubus. Ere revolving any complicated project, however, adapted to this end, I first simply suggested to Bartleby the propriety of his permanent departure. In a calm and serious tone, I commended the idea to his careful and mature consideration. But, having taken 3 days to meditate upon it, he apprised me that his original determination remained the same, in short, that he still preferred to abide with me. What shall I do? I now said to myself, buttoning up my coat to the last button. What shall I do? What ought I to do? What does conscience say I should do with this man, or rather ghost? Rid myself of him I must. Go he shall. But how? You will not thrust him, the poor, pale, passive mortal. You will not thrust such a helpless creature out of your door. You will not dishonour yourself by such cruelty. No, I will not. I cannot do that. Rather would I let him live and die here, and then mason up his remains in the wall. What then will you do? For all your coaxing, he will not budge. Bribes he leaves under your own paperweight on your table. In short, it is quite plain that he prefers to cling to you. Then something severe, something unusual must be done. What I surely... Sorry, that's an exclamation mark. Oh dear goddess. My glasses. What? Surely you will not have him collared by a constable and commit his innocent pallor to the common jail? And upon what ground could you procure such a thing to be done? A vagrant is he? What? He a vagrant, a wanderer who refuses to budge? It is because he will not be a vagrant, then, that you seek to count him as a vagrant. That is too absurd. No visible means of support. There I have him. Wrong again, for indubitably he does support himself, and that is the only unanswerable proof that any man can show of his possessing the means to do so. No more then. Since he will not quit me, I must quit him. I will change my offices, I will move elsewhere, and give him fair notice that if I find him on my new premises, I will then proceed against him as a common trespasser. He's really got him good, hasn't he? He's really got him really good. Quite crazy now. Acting accordingly, next day I thus addressed him. I find these chambers too far from the city hall. The air is unwholesome. In a word, I propose to remove my offices next week and shall no longer require your services. I tell you this now in order that you may seek another place. He made no reply, and nothing more was said. On the appointed day, I engaged carts and men, proceeded to my chambers, and having but little furniture, everything was removed in a few hours. Throughout, the scrivener remained standing behind the screen, which I directed to be removed the last thing. It was withdrawn, and, being folded up like a huge folio, left him the motionless occupant of a naked room. I stood in the entry, watching him a moment, while something from within me upbraided me. I re-entered with my hand in my pocket and my heart in my mouth. Goodbye, Bartleby. I am going. Goodbye, and God some way bless you. And take that, slipping something in his hand. But it dropped upon the floor, and then, strange to say, I tore myself from him, whom I had so longed to be rid of. Established in my new quarters, for a day or two I kept the door locked and started at every footfall in the passages. When I returned to my rooms after any little absence, I would pause at the threshold for an instant and attentively listen, ere applying my key. But these fears were needless. Bartleby never came nigh me. I thought all was going well when a perturbed-looking stranger visited me, inquiring whether I was the person who had recently occupied rooms at number Wall Street. Full of forebodings, I replied that I was. Then, sir, said the stranger, who proved a lawyer, you are responsible for the man you left there. He refuses to do any copying. He refuses to do anything. He says he prefers not to, and he refuses to quit the premises. I am very sorry, sir, said I with assumed tranquillity, but an inward tremor. But really the man you allude to is nothing to me. He is no relation or apprentice of mine, that you should hold me responsible for him. In mercy's name, who is he? I certainly cannot inform you. I know nothing about him. Formerly I employed him as a copyist, but he has done nothing for me now for some time fast. I shall settle him then. Good morning, sir. Several days passed, and I heard nothing more, and though I often felt a charitable prompting to call at the place and see poor Bartleby, yet a certain squeamishness of I know not what withheld me. All is over with him by this time, thought I, at last, when through another week no further intelligence reached me. But, coming to my room the day after, I found several persons waiting at my door in a high state of nervous excitement. That's the man! Here he comes! Cried the foremost one, whom I recognized as the lawyer who had previously called upon me alone. You must take him away, sir, at once, cried a portly person among them, advancing upon me, and whom I knew to be the landlord of number Wall Street. These gentlemen, my tenants, cannot stand it any longer. Mr. B, pointing to the lawyer, has turned him out of his room, and he now persists in haunting the building generally, sitting upon the banisters of the stairs by day, and sleeping in the entry by night. Everybody is concerned, clients are leaving the offices, some fears are entertained of a mob. Something you must do, and that without delay. Aghast at this torrent, I fell back before it, and would fain have locked myself in my new quarters. In vain I persisted that Bartleby was nothing to me, no more than to anyone else. In vain I was the last person known to have anything to do with him, and they held me to the terrible account. Fearful then of being exposed in the papers, as one person present obscurely threatened, I considered the matter, and at length said that if the lawyer would give me a confidential interview with the scrivener in his, the lawyer's, own room, I would that afternoon strive my best to rid them of the nuisance they complained of, which is kind of silly considering he himself had to move away rather than get rid of him. What was it they said earlier? the fumes of vanity. Smoking, babies. Mama too. I like this story. I like it a lot. Going upstairs to my old haunt, there was Bartleby, silently sitting upon the banister at the landing. "What are you doing there, Bartleby?" said I. "Sitting upon the banister," he mildly replied. I motioned him into the lawyer's room, who then left us. "Bartleby," said I, "are you aware that you are the cause of great tribulation to me by persisting in occupying the entry after being dismissed from the office?" No answer. Now one of two things must take place. Either you must do something, or something must be done to you. Now, what sort of business would you like to engage in? Would you like to re-engage in copying for someone? No, I would prefer not to make any change. Would you like a clerkship in a dry goods store? There is too much confinement about that. No, I would not like a clerkship, but I am not particular. "Too much confinement!" I cried. "Why, you keep yourself confined all the time." "I would prefer not to take a clerkship," he rejoined, as if to settle that little item at once. "How would a bartender's business suit you? There is no trying of the eyesight in that." "I would not like it at all, though, as I said before, I am not particular." His unwonted wordiness inspirited me. I returned to the charge. "Well then, would you like to travel through the country collecting bills for the merchants? That would improve your health." "No, I would prefer to be doing something else." "How then? Would going as a companion to Europe to entertain some young gentleman with your conversation, how would that suit you?" "Not at all. It does not strike me that there is anything definite about that. I like to be stationary, but I am not particular." "Stationary you shall be then," I cried, now losing all patience, and for the first time in all my exasperating connection with him, fairly flying into a passion. "If you do not go away from these premises before night, I shall feel bound, indeed I am bound, to quit the premises myself," I rather absurdly concluded, knowing not with what possible threat to try to frighten his immobility into compliance. Despairing of all further efforts, I was precipitately leaving him when a final thought occurred to me, one which had not been wholly unindulged before. "Bartleby," said I, in the kindest tone I could assume under such exciting circumstances, "will you go home with me now? Not to my office, but my dwelling, and remain there till I can conclude upon some convenient arrangement for you at our leisure. Come, let us start now, right away." "No, at present I would prefer not to make any change at all." I answered nothing, but effectually dodging everyone by the suddenness and rapidity of my flight, rushed from the building, ran up Wall Street towards Broadway, and, jumping into the first omnibus, was soon removed from pursuit. As soon as tranquillity returned, I distinctly perceived that I had now done all that I possibly could, both in respect to the demands of the landlord and his tenants, and with regard to my own desire and sense of duty to benefit Bartleby and shield him from rude persecution. I now strove to be entirely carefree and quiescent, and my conscience justified me in the attempt, though indeed it was not so successful as I could have wished. So fearful was I of being again hunted out by the incensed landlord and his exasperated tenants that, surrendering my business to nippers for a few days, I drove about the upper part of the town and through the suburbs in my rockaway, crossed over to Jersey City and Hoboken, and paid fugitive visits to Manhattanville and Astoria. In fact, I almost lived in my rockaway for the time. When again I entered my office, lo, a note from the landlord lay upon the desk. I opened it with trembling hands. It informed me that the writer had sent to the police and had Bartleby removed to the Tombs as a vagrant. Moreover, since I knew more about him than anyone else, he wished me to appear at that place and make a suitable statement of the facts. These tidings had a conflicting effect upon me. At first I was indignant, but at last almost approved. The landlord's energetic summary disposition had led him to adopt a procedure which I do not think I would have decided upon myself, and yet, as a last resort, under such peculiar circumstances, it seemed the only plan. As I afterwards learned, the poor scrivener, when told that he must be conducted to the Tombs, offered not the slightest obstacle, but in his pale, unmoving way, silently acquiesced. Some of the compassionate and curious bystanders joined the party, and headed by one of the constables, arm in arm with Bartleby. The man lacked iron in his diet. I mean, there has to be some medical thing that caused him to be so stark raving mad. I'm just thinking outside the box. It's meant to be a fiction story, but I'm treating it as if it's real. Isn't that delightful? How stories can lure you into your near reality as if it's real? A bit like my non-existent love life, babies. Beware lest Mama T decides to make it real. Big boys. But I must cease and desist being erotic and sensuous, for I shall get severely chastised in my next therapy session, and I shall laugh like a mad woman into the face of my unreality. The dimensions have been tweaked, you understand. A real man with real passion, desire, honour towards me need only apply and reply, and supply. What is he supplying? I don't know. Today is gonna be the day that I'm gonna throw it back at you. How does the rest of that song go? It'll come to me. I just went blank. I went blank because my mind's saving me from myself. Before I make a complete and utter fool of myself, I shall continue with the reality of this wonderful, mischievous, delightful, passive-aggressive story. Some of the compassionate and curious bystanders joined the party, and, headed by one of the constables arm in arm with Bartleby, the silent procession filed its way through all the noise and heat and joy of the roaring thoroughfares at noon. The same day I received the note. I went to the tombs, or, to speak more properly, the halls of justice. I wondered what they meant by the tombs. I gathered it was something of the like, but seeking the right officer, I stated the purpose of my call and was informed that the individual I described was indeed within. I then assured the functionary that Bartleby was a perfectly honest man and greatly to be compassionated, however unaccountably eccentric. I narrated all I knew and closed by suggesting the idea of letting him remain in as indulgent confinement as possible till something less harsh might be done, though indeed I hardly knew what. At all events, if nothing else could be decided upon, the almshouse must receive him. I then begged to have an interview. Being under no disgraceful charge and quite serene and harmless in all his ways, they had permitted him freely to wander about the prison, and especially in the enclosed, grass-platted yards thereof. Grass-platted, Platted. Grass-platted. Flattened? Let me Google that, people of Earth. Alright, okay, I have to go to settings because apparently I'm still in aeroplane mode. Right, thought I'd gone off that. Grass-platted. Grass. Hyphen. Platted. It would appear that my internet's still down on my goddamn bloody phone. God damn it. Sorry. I hate when things don't work out for me. It's a source of great frustration. Why is that doing all weird things? I don't know. Well, we shall never know because my phone's not working at the present moment in time. It's odd, isn't it? Very odd. I've only got one. Oh no, we're cooking on gas again. Let's see if we can get it now. Can't open. That's a lie. A plot of land on which grass grows. Does plat mean flat? Flat or smooth? So I was right. I was right in my assumption. Good. I like it when I'm right in my assumptions. Now we'll find where we were. Completely lost the plot, people of Earth. Just whistle a happy tune. Whistle a happy tune. Today is gonna be the day that we're gonna throw it back to you. Somehow, I never know how. Nothing I want to do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. and all the roads we had to walk are winding, and all the lights that lead the way are blinding. Came to me in the end. Came to me in the end, people of Earth. Right. He was wandering around in enclosed grass-platted yards thereof, and so I found him there, standing all alone in the quietest of the yards, his face towards a high wall, while all around, from the narrow slits of the jail windows, I thought I saw, peering out upon him, the eyes of murderers and thieves. "Bartleby, I know you," he said, without looking round, "and I want nothing to say to you." "It was not I that brought you here, Bartleby," said I, keenly pained at his implied suspicion. "Pardon me. And to you it should not be so vile a place. Nothing reproachful attaches to you by being here, and see, it is not so sad a place as one might think. Look, there is the sky, and here is the grass." Getting a bit tired. I'm getting a bit tired, people of Earth. "I know where I am," he replied, but would say nothing more, and so I left him. As I entered the corridor again, a broad, meat-like man in an apron accosted me and, jerking his thumb over his shoulder, said, "Is that your friend?" "Yes." "Does he want to starve? If he does, let him live on the prison fare, that's all." "Who are you?" asked I, not knowing what to make of such an unofficially speaking person in such a place. "I am the grub man. Such gentlemen as have friends here hire me to provide them with something good to eat." "Is this so?" said I, turning to the turnkey. He said it was. "Well then," said I, slipping some silver into the grub man's hands, for so they called him, "I want you to give particular attention to my friend there. Let him have the best dinner you can get, and you must be as polite to him as possible." "Introduce me, will you?" said the grub man, looking at me with an expression which seemed to say he was all impatience for an opportunity to give a specimen of his breeding. Thinking it would prove of benefit to the scrivener, I acquiesced, and asking the grub man his name, went up with him to Bartleby. "Bartleby, this is a friend. You will find him very useful to you." "Your servant, sir, your servant," said the grub man, making a low salutation behind his apron. "Hope you find it pleasant here, sir. Nice grounds, cool apartments. Hope you'll stay with us some time. Try to make it agreeable. What will you have for dinner today?" "I prefer not to dine today," said Bartleby, turning away. "It would disagree with me. I am unused to dinners." So saying, he slowly moved to the other side of the enclosure and took up a position fronting the dead wall. "How's this?" said the grub man, addressing me with a stare of astonishment. "He's odd, ain't he?" "I think he's a little deranged," said I sadly. "Deranged? Deranged, is it? Well now, upon my word, I thought that friend of yourn was a gentleman forger. They are always pale and genteel like them forgers. I can't help pity 'em, can't help it, sir. Did you know Monroe Edwards?" he added touchingly, and paused. Then, laying his hand piteously upon my shoulder, sighed. "He died of consumption at Sing Sing." "So you weren't acquainted with Monroe?" "No, I was never socially acquainted with any forgers, but I cannot stop longer. Look to my friend yonder. You will not lose by it. I will see you again." Some few days after this, I again obtained admission to the tombs, and went through the corridors in quest of Bartleby, but without finding him. "I saw him coming from his cell not long ago," said a turnkey. "Maybe he's gone to loiter in the yards." So I went in that direction. "Are you looking for the silent man?" said another turnkey, passing me. "Yonder he lies, sleeping in the yard there. 'Tis not 20 minutes since I saw him lie down." The yard was entirely quiet. It was not accessible to the common prisoners. The surrounding walls of amazing thickness kept off all sounds behind them. The Egyptian character of the masonry weighed upon me with its gloom, but a soft imprisoned turf grew underfoot. The heart of the eternal pyramids, it seemed, wherein by some strange magic, through the clefts, grass seed dropped by birds had sprung. Strangely huddled at the base of the wall, his knees drawn up and lying on his side, his head touching the cold stones, I saw the wasted Bartleby. But nothing stirred. I paused, then went close up to him, stooped over and saw that his dim eyes were open. Otherwise, he seemed profoundly sleeping. Something prompted me to touch him. I felt his hand when a tingling shiver ran up my arm and down my spine to my feet. The round man of the grub man peered upon me now. "His dinner is ready. Won't he dine today either, or does he live without dining?" "Lives without dining," said I, and closed the eyes. "Eh? He's asleep, ain't he?" "With kings and counsellors," murmured I. There would seem little need for proceeding further in this history. Imagination will readily supply the meagre recital of poor Bartleby's interment. But, ere parting with the reader, let me say that if this little narrative has sufficiently interested him to awaken curiosity as to who Bartleby was and what manner of life he led prior to the present narrator's making his acquaintance, I can only reply that in such curiosity I fully share, but am wholly unable to gratify it. Yet here I hardly know whether I should divulge one little item of rumour which came to my ear a few months after the scrivener's decease, upon which basis it rested I could never ascertain, and hence how true it is I cannot now tell. But inasmuch as this vague report has not been without a certain suggestive interest to me, however sad, it may prove the same with some others, and so I will briefly mention it. The report was this, that Bartleby had been a subordinate clerk in the dead letter office at Washington, from which he had been suddenly removed by a change in the administration. When I think over this rumour, hardly can I express the emotions which seize me. Dead letters. Does it not sound like dead men? Conceive a man by nature and misfortune prone to a pallid hopelessness. Can any business seem more fitted to heighten it than that of continually handling these dead letters and assorting them for the flames? For by the cartload they are annually burned. Sometimes from out the folded paper the pale clerk takes a ring, the finger it was meant for, perhaps moulders in the grave, a banknote sent in swiftest charity, he whom it would relieve, nor eats nor hungers any more. Pardon for those who died despairing, hope for those who died unhoping, good tidings for those who died stifled by unrelieved calamities. On errands of life, these letters speed to death. Ah, Bartleby, ah, humanity. The end. And no doubt 3 hours and 40 minutes and 49 seconds and counting. I shall return to you tomorrow with yet another story of supernatural wizardry and bathos and humanity and delight among the smite. God and Goddess bless us all and smile into the face of ignominious societal unreason and declension and reach your ascension. Arise and shine, people of earth, experience your own divinity and remain sanguine and sublime, and if you must, prefer not to, and if you must not, prefer to proclaim your own will and mischief and hubris and deep and powerful love, light, truth, and when you can get it, passion babies, lest we should die of ginger nut malnourishment and other absurdist, humanistic demises.